What is up, everybody? Welcome into GameQuest, the Volquest.com Game Day podcast. I am Eric Cain. That is Grant Ramey, and we're going to get you set for Tennessee and ETSU, the Mighty Bucks, here for the home opener at Neyland Stadium, Saturday, 3:30 Eastern Time. This game's going to be that one of the year that it's streamed, all right? So it's going to be on the SEC Network Plus, ESPN Plus. All you Tennessee baseball fans, you know the drill. If you don't watch much Tennessee baseball, well, good luck, because it's going to be a lot of aggravation, but it is going to be streamed here today, and we're going to get you set for all that. We're going to talk a little bit about last week, talk a little bit about the Bucks, what's to come, all that and more here on GameQuest, presented by our friends over at Spivey, King and Spivey LLP. If you got a problem, let them find a solution for you. TN Trial Lawyers, a free consultation today by picking up the phone, dialing the phone number 423-245-4185. Go check them out online at SpiveyKingandSpiveyLLP.com. Again, if you got a problem, let them find a solution for you. That is TN Trial Lawyers. All right, Grant Ramey, a little bit of a split household here, like household divided type situation. You're from the Tri-Cities, grew up a big-time Bucks fan, covered the University of Tennessee, went to the University of Tennessee. I mean, I say all this in jest, but really, there's a lot of people like that. There's somebody on the board in the Mailbag podcast saying, what should I do? I went to ETSU. I'm a Vols fan or something like that. Like, how should I go about this? Kind of one of those interesting weekends that in-state rivalry. I say rivalry. It's not a rivalry. This is only the second all-time meeting between the two schools.
Yeah, and you can do whatever you want. We know how Saturday's going to play out. Like, if you want to wear Buck stuff, wear Buck stuff. If you want to wear Tennessee stuff, wear Tennessee stuff. This should go only one way, and we'll see it play out that way Saturday, I'm sure. But yeah, born and raised Kingsport. My mom went to ETSU. A bunch of my friends out of high school went to ETSU. I'll tell you what, if Tennessee had the admissions rate that they have now when I was in school, I probably would have gone to ETSU because I probably wouldn't have got into the University of Tennessee. But that was a long time ago. That was 20 years ago. So thank God for those lower academic standards at the time for people like myself. But yes, ETSU, man. I went to the Mini Dome when I was a kid a lot. I think I saw Randy Moss there one time when he was at Marshall way back in the day. So that was always fun. It's crazy watching football in an arena, indoors, in a dome. It was just bizarre at that level. So yeah, it went away for a while. They brought it back, thankfully. Randy Sanders did some really, really good stuff. I think they're still trying to find that. It's kind of a interesting, because Will Healy talked about it. He's at ETSU now. He was at Charlotte. He was at Austin Peay. He's taken teams to Auburn. He's taken teams to Clemson. He's taken teams to Alabama, to Georgia, whatever. Like, he's played number one ranked teams on the road in this position. He's got two Power 4 quarterback transfers in Jacoby Criswell and Cade McNair. Cade McNair was from Michigan and then Iowa, and then Jacoby was from Arkansas and then North Carolina. So that's a very, I don't know. I remember seeing the headlines when Cade transferred there thinking, what in the world is going on that's getting him to ETSU football? But it makes weeks like this a little bit more interesting.
No, it certainly does. And, East Tennessee State, you kind of gave a brief history there about the, it went away for, how long was it away for? Like 15, 16 years?
A long time, yeah. Something like that.
Yeah. And, Carson Newman, Hall of Famer, longtime baseball, football savant. Carl Torbush was the first coach to kind of bring it back, and may he rest in peace. Handed the torch over there to Randy Sanders. I believe it was that order. And Sanders had some great success, man.
Randy did. Randy won 11 games one year. He took him to, I believe, a quarterfinal in the FCS. That's a huge deal for ETSU football. ETSU's got a pretty decent athletic department, good baseball program, men's basketball program that's almost, bless you, Eric, by the way, that's almost that is almost won NCAA tournament games. They've been really close to upsets. There was an Arizona game that's kind of legendary from like the early 90s where it was almost like, I think it was like maybe a 15-2 game, and they almost pulled the upset. So
I want to say that they almost beat, was it Pitt? Or maybe it was Purdue. This is probably 10, 15 years ago, but it was a 15-2. It was either Pitt or Purdue, and East Tennessee State almost knocked them off. Anyway, but yeah, they're
baseball, did they beat Tennessee in baseball recently? I've already flushed that from my memory, if so.
Yeah, there's so many games. Yeah, it was a midweek loss. I think that was the first loss of the season for Tennessee.
Was that in Johnson City or in Knoxville?
Come on. That was here.
Hey, I've covered a Tennessee baseball game in Johnson City, Cardinal Park, way back in the day.
Hey, I would go to Cardinal Park.
But I asked
about it.
I asked that because Will Healy was talking about it. He was asked about it during his press conference on Monday, and he said something like, I hope the Tennessee fans don't remember me from being in the stadium chirping at Tennessee players and whatever, chirping at Tennessee fans, I guess, which made me think maybe they went to Johnson City. I just didn't remember it, but I guess I'm thinking back to like the Raleigh days and not the Tony Vitello era.
The old midweek Tuesday night extra inning game. Tennessee always slips up at some point on a Tuesday night. They lost 7-6, and that's why a lot of Tennessee fans are like, "No, we don't want ETSU in our regional." Completely off topic here. There's going to be more. I'm not calling more midweek slip ups, but the way baseball is going to be played in the midweek is going to be vastly different moving forward because of the roster restrictions. All right, this is not a baseball podcast.
I was going to say, Sam Smith, if you're listening, you appreciated that little moment of baseball talk in the Game Day podcast.
He's going to want some more. But no, it was Randy Sanders had a lot of success. And then last couple of years, Trey Lamb came in 7-5, but did a lot of good things. They were really good offensively last year. But he jumped ship to,
Tulsa.
What was it? Tulsa, yeah.
That's a huge jump.
It is.
Jump.
And
after 1 year at ETSU and being such a young coach, like he must have been very, very impressive.
Yeah, and then, of course, as you mentioned, Will Healy, not Appalachian, Austin P, Charlotte. He's been around the block a little bit. So, last week with ETSU, man, I guess we'll just kind of start with there, and then we'll get on to some Tennessee stuff. There's not a whole lot to talk about the ETSU. Last week against Murray State, man, I mean, they just blew them out, right? And they had nearly, I need to pull up my first glance. They had nearly, I want to say 600 yards of total offense. They had nearly 400 yards on the ground. And again, picked up last year where they led the SoCon in rushing. I think they were second in total yards. I mean, they were pretty efficient on offense in the ground game. And that's kind of surprising because, like you said, 2 Power 4 transfer quarterbacks who've got a lot of starting experience, and they just pounded the ground last week. Obviously, if that's what they do best, they're going to try to do that against Tennessee, but they're not going to be able to line it up and just run at will like they did against Murray State.
Right. It's an interesting offense because it's still a 2-quarterback system. Will Healy said the other day, they were going to rotate that third possession. Cain McNamara started, and he said basically if he threw 2 picks or if he threw 2 touchdowns, we're rotating to Jacoby Criswell on that third series.
I wouldn't look. It was 2 series.
Okay.
2 series, but then in a couple of those series though, one started, and I think it was the backup came in and took over a long sustaining drive or something. And of course he has more legs. They can do a little bit more with him in that regard. But yeah, it was 2 on, 2 off, 2 on, 2 off, and kind of gone from there.
Yeah, he said something like, I laid out the schedule for them ahead of time, and I said, don't be looking over your shoulder. There's no reason for you not to be confident in what you're doing on the field. Don't worry about that. We're going to rotate regardless of the results. And he talked about Jacoby Criswell as well, being ready in the middle of a drive to replace Cain McNamara if the situation calls for it. So not only is it a 2-quarterback system that's going to stay on schedule based on possessions, but it could be like you're talking about in the middle of a possession where they just change quarterback.
So ETSU also brought in the 2 quarterbacks. Obviously, brought in a couple of linebackers to add to that defense. Drew Francis, son of Jeff Francis, VFL quarterback. He was at MTSU, played at Knox West High School. He's a starting linebacker for ETSU. They brought in a couple of other guys, an App State transfer. They didn't lose an awful lot, I guess. I mean, they lost a leading rusher to, I want to say, the NFL, Bryson Irby, or maybe graduation, I should say. They did lose a starting quarterback to Florida State. They brought back 3 of their top 4 receivers. They brought back a running back that had nearly 700 yards on the ground. They have to replace 4 or 5 starting offensive linemen. Again, there's not a whole lot here in a game like this, and that's no disrespect. It just kind of is what it is. So let me ask you this, Grant: what's the focal? And I'll start. This is a very Brent Hubbs thing to say, but it's so true, right? You've got to have some serious maturity on your roster today, and really all week. But you have to have some serious maturity on your roster. You can't treat this like it's not Syracuse last week, like it's not going to be Georgia next week. You got to treat it the same. You got to go in there, and if I'm a starter, right? I mean, we all played in these football games way back in the day, right? Uncle Rico, when that Brevard comes up on the schedule, when that Cott County comes up on the schedule, yeah, catching strays, Cott County,
and Brevard.
Brevard is now Division III, so they were a very horrendous Division II program.
Friend that played baseball at Brevard. Let's not catch strays here.
Caught an interception against Brevard, if that tells you anything of the level of athletic ability in that football game.
Did you take it back?
No, that one I dove and had the interception. I had another one against Mars Hill, and then I dropped an interception on the sideline. It would have been my second pick against Mars Hill. That would have been a walk-in touchdown, and I will never, ever forget that for as long as I live. That's more believable, right? But anyway, like we all had those games on the schedule to where like, okay, if you're a starter, like if you're a key guy, it's like, okay, let me get in there and handle my business. Let's see how quickly I can get off on the sideline and wave at girls in the stands and hang out and support my other teammates. Like that was kind of a motivation factor for me. But as we saw in 2023, right? You go in there against Austin P and you don't handle your business and you walk out of Neyland Stadium like, oh my gosh, that was disgusting. What a waste of 4 hours of my life, right? Because I think they went to halftime leading 30-13, and I think they ended the game winning 30-17 or so, whatever it was. It was not bad. You got to go in there, you got to be mature, got to handle your business, and you need to empty the bench.
What I liked about one of the underrated things I thought about the Syracuse game was it was 17-0 after the first quarter. It feels like it's been a while since Tennessee's really kind of had one of those fast starts. A lot of obviously frustrating starts last season, shutout at the half in 3 games and all that stuff that we've talked about. But it needs to be another one of those days where you have a really fast first quarter and you just handle your business. And like you're talking about, and like we've talked about before these games in years past, empty the bench as fast as you can, as quickly as you can. Get as many reps as you can for those guys that you're still trying to kind of fill out and figure out what you got there in terms of depth pieces. Let guys that are, obviously we saw injuries take its toll against Syracuse, like guys that are banged up, get an off day or get as much of the day off as they can and get as healthy as you can, because obviously Georgia to start SEC play is huge. No other way to say it. But yeah, start fast, handle your business, show that maturity that you're talking about in the first quarter early on, set the tone, and kind of go from there.
Give me a list, a couple guys on offense, couple guys on defense, and I'm sure we'll have some of the same ones that you're excited to see get out there and do something today. We know about the injury situations, and we can touch on it here, but we'll spend a little bit more time after the break. We'll hear from Willie Martinez, Joey Halsley on some of the injury situations for Tennessee. But who were some of these young guys that you want to say, man, what an opportunity today? Go in there. I'm excited to see what you can do, some play, and then maybe kind of carve out a role in the depth chart moving forward because of what you did today.
The 2 young running backs, the guys behind the top 3, who's that Dwan Morris and Justin Baker, is that right? Yes. I would like to see those guys, see what you got out of those guys, and kind of what the future might look like for those 2. Rodarius Jackson, I think we're going to see a lot of him in a lot of big games, but I think extended run where he's a little bit more the focal point. I think we're all kind of interested based on what he did in the spring and kind of stuff, the plays he made in the orange and white game. Those kind of settings. Defensively, I don't know. What do you got defensively? I would need a second to.
Well, defensively, I want to see so much of those young defensive tackles, right? I don't want to see Bryson Easton playing 25, 30 snaps in this game. Yeah. There's no excuse for that, right? If Nathan Robinson, and I'm intrigued to see what happens today. We talked about it all week, and there's some different views a little bit on there. I think AP was on one side, maybe he might flipped at some point. But, like, in my opinion, if Nathan Robinson is healthy enough to go in this game, doesn't matter. Don't play him. I know he needs to play, but don't play him. You need him. And, gosh, he was effective last week. But I want to see the Isaiah Campbell's. Man, I'm so excited to see Isaiah Campbell. Ethan Utley's ahead of him in the depth chart, right? But I want to see Isaiah Campbell. I want to see Ethan Utley. I want to see Josh Snell. I want to see some of these young defensive tackles get in there, make some Charles House, right? I mean, he's probably going to be a redshirt this year, but this is one of those games that you would think that he could play in. Those young defensive tackles need to play a ton, get snaps under their belts, and build some depth. At linebacker, man, Jordan Burns, I can't believe we didn't see him last week, right? Shout out Ben Bolton for winning the job in camp. I know the GQ don't want to hear that, but if you earned it, you earned it, right? But Jordan Burns needs to be that guy moving forward, and so take advantage of your opportunity. Jaden Harmon had 12 snaps. I know you did the Pro Football Focus stuff. Jaden Harmon did 12 snaps, pass breakup. I think he had like 4 tackles, TFL. Like, he was so productive in 12 snaps. What can he do with 35 snaps today, right? I mean, that might be extreme, but I want to see that. In the secondary, corner, man, and I'll be honest with you, like Jalen McMurray's going to be your 3. Okay, I know he's playing star, but he's going to be your 3. William Wright's going to be your 4, behind Ty Redmond and behind Colton Hood. We'll talk cornerback here in a moment. But after that, dude, Grant, I have no clue. I don't know what the pecking order is. Is it Dylan Sampson? Is it Marcus Gorey? Is it Trey Poteet? I have no clue. But that group of guys needs to play a ton today, because just like a defensive tackle, corner needs to create some depth in a big way.
And in a hurry, all of a sudden, because of the injury to Ricky Gibson, because you're still waiting on Jermon McCoy. And Willie Martinez talked on Tuesday about the versatility of the group, the depth of the group. He still feels good about it. He likes the pieces. They work at a lot of different positions and flip sides and all this stuff. Well, let's start to see some of those combos, some of those different plug and play guys, and see what that depth looks like there. Because you're already you're down to Ty Redmond, you're down to Colton Hood. Not ideal, but those two guys played really, really well against Syracuse, and if they can still stay healthy, that's great because you got two good answers right there at that position moving forward. But let's see what those guys look like behind them, not only what they look like, but what the combinations look like.
Yep. On that note, let's hear from Willie Martinez earlier in the week talking about what his plan is at corner now that you're down your two starters.
Obviously, we recruit here athletic kids, that can be very multiple, and we've moved around. We've actually practiced guys at different positions, even though you haven't seen them, in games play the position. So we're going to rely on our athleticism and some of the kids that. Some of the players that have been bouncing from left to right, whether it's a young man, young player like Tim Merritt or Dylan Lewis, they have the skill sets, So that gives us the opportunity. Trey Boteets, that's how we make it. Obviously we've got some veterans like Will Wright, and who did a really good job this last ball game, and we kind of shuffle them around. I mean, you got Jalen McMurray, you've got Boo Carter. I mean, you got guys that can play a lot of positions. So we'll use that, and we'll just mix it up, and we'll play the best lineup at the time. But we'll be very versatile as far as moving them around.
Again, I'm excited to see some of those young guys that I have no clue about the pecking order behind what we've already mentioned. And, in a game that actually matters next week, Grant, I do think that, Boo Carter, needs to come back and play the majority of the snaps. And, penance needs to be over. If you're on the team, let's roll. And I think that's where you're going to see. I could still see Jalen McMurray starting at star, but they're going to have to play him both at star and at corner in the same game for sure. Sometimes maybe in the same drive. And I'm fine with that. Again, it's weird, being down Jamal McCoy, who's arguably a first-round draft pick, being down Ricky Gibson, who I thought with a strong year this year is off to the NFL, being down two NFL guys, and you're like, okay, well, I feel okay kind of where they are now. Now, I recognize Ty Redmond is a true freshman, and he is about to get baptized by fire in a hurry again, right? Next week with Georgia. 60 snaps is no slouch against that passing offense of Syracuse to Stephen Jelly, who surprised me a little bit, Grant. But I recognize he's a true freshman. He's going to have some lumps. I recognize that Colton Hood is not going to be as effective every week as he was, the other day. And I recognize there's not a whole lot of depth behind him, but I like that talent there, man. I really, really like that talent at corner, and that's another reason why I think when all healthy, cornerback is probably the best position group on the team.
First of all, I should apologize for slandering William Wright, because I think last week on the Mailbag podcast, somebody asked us the jersey number combinations, offense, defense, guys that would have good years. And I kind of joked maybe Ethan Davis wearing 0 and William Wright wearing 0. Well, he got a lot of playing time against Syracuse. I don't know what the snap count was, even though I did the snap counts on Sunday. I've slept since then, but it felt like when you looked out there, he was on the field just a little bit.
15 snaps.
Yeah, I mean that's not nothing. What's Boo's Carter's snaps?
Arguably the 5 or 6 most important snaps of his career. There's no argument about it. The 5 or 6 most important snaps of his career came at the end of the 2022 Alabama game. He had a tackle on a slant, and sure, he gave up the slant, but if you don't make that tackle, you lose. So,
I've already memory hold that, because I remember now very specifically that you mentioned that, getting down on the field for that final, whatever it was, 2 minutes of that Alabama game, and looking out on the field and seeing him and almost wiping my eyes, am I really seeing this? Is this really who's out there? But yeah, I had completely forgotten. What was Boo's snaps on Saturday?
Boo played, I want to say, I've got it right here, 27 snaps.
More than
McMurray
I thought.
Played 52. Colton Hood played 86, and Ty Redmond played 60.
And Andre Turrentine played 9,000. I think 90 was the number.
90 is correct. Yes, he's not coming off the field.
Yeah, so I'm interested to see Trey Poteet, and I'm interested to see some of these other guys and how the shuffle in the defensive backfield with the injuries, how that changes the Boo Carter trajectory. I couldn't have told you he played 27 snaps against Syracuse. I just didn't feel like we saw him that much, and maybe that's a good thing. When you're a defensive back and you're getting attention, that can be for bad reasons. But I do think, it's easy to pick on Willie Martinez. It's easy to pick on secondary coaches in general just because you're that last line of defense. And when your guys don't do their job, it's obvious, and you're the guy that needs to get better players, or you're the guy that needs to get replaced on the staff and all that stuff. That's just kind of the nature of the defensive backs. But what they've done the last couple of years, some of the talent they brought in, some of the guys they found. Ty Redmond, like, who was he in the recruiting process? He wasn't a big name, but he stepped up and played really, really big against Syracuse. And he might struggle because that's what it is at that position, especially as a freshman. Colton Hood's going to have his struggles, even though he looked really, really good and kind of advertised against Syracuse, but he's going to have his struggles because that's just the nature of the position. But for what they've had to deal with and what they've looked like so far, it's been pretty good.
Who was Ty Redmond in the recruiting cycles? Well, he went by Tyler back then. He probably still goes by Tyler now, but everybody, just ties.
Making a new name for himself now.
Yeah, there you go. According to the Rivals industry rankings, old Ty Redmond was prospect number 699, so just inside the top 700. He was a real nice 69th at his position, and this is my favorite. And recognize the state of Georgia is just absolutely loaded with talent. He is the 86th ranked prospect from the state of Georgia.
Didn't look like that on a Saturday back in the state of Georgia.
Yeah, and again, I say all this knowing that not just Charles House and all the great people here at Rivals and On 3, but
right, it's an impossible task.
Impossible task.
It is,
but it is quite funny.
But it's always fun. It's fun to look at. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Hey, I want to ask Grant a little bit about last week moving forward. Offensive wrinkles. What did Joey Halsey have to say about that? Plus, Joey Aguilar, man. We've gone this whole time haven't even talked about QB1. Again, I know we spent all week talking about the Syracuse game, but with ETSU on the docket today, that's still the main course. So we'll come back here on GameQuest, presented by our great friends over at Spivey, King and Spivey, LOP. Yeah, big thanks to Spivey, King and Spivey LLP for being the presenting sponsor of GameQuest. They've been with us for the Rocky Tide Rewind. They've been with us for the Porch. They've been a great, proud sponsor of many of our shows here on Volquest.com. And this year, it's also including GameQuest. So big thank you to them. Who are they? Well, three guys, Matthew A. Spivey, J. Matt King, Richard A. Spivey. They specialize in criminal defense, family law, personal injury, divorce, custody, alimony, personal injury such as car wrecks, accidents, anything you can think of. If you have a problem, they're going to find a solution for you, T and trial lawyers. Over 80 years of combined experience, Spivey, King and Spivey LLP provides representation throughout state and federal courts in Northeast Tennessee. The firm has a vast amount of trial experience. Practice has been in place for 43 years. This specific partnership since 2012, while also having partners who are energized for today's modern legal demands. Practicing primarily Northeast Tennessee and the Tri-Cities of Sullivan County, as well as Hawkins County, Washington County, and surrounding areas. The firm has won multiple awards and attorneys who have been rated by super lawyers in the Mid-South with real trial experience. Whether you've been injured in a car accident, need help with a divorce, help with custody of your children, or you've been accused of a crime, Spivey, King and Spivey LLP, they can help you. Give a free, they pick up the phone and dial this number for a free consultation. That is 423-245-4185. That is 423-245-4185. Or go visit them online at Spivey, King and Spivey LLP.com. Spivey, King and Spivey LLP.com. If you have a need, they are going to find a solution for you if you got that problem. That is TN Trial Lawyers. Also want to give a shout out to Whataburger. Oh yeah, there's a new Whataburger location on the Strip. There's another one coming in Powell here in the next couple months. Awesome time here in East Tennessee, right? And maybe not super late tonight for the game, but there's going to be some late nights coming up this football season. And at Whataburger, they believe in a late night shouldn't prevent you from enjoying a hot, fresh, made-to-order meal. That's why Whataburger is open 24 hours a day so you can get your favorite burger whenever it's convenient for you. Treat yourself to a Whataburger or a double Whataburger, or what about a double Whataburger and two kinds of melty cheese, bacon, grilled onions? Now we're talking. Whataburger, just the way you like it.
Yeah, fundamentally, in the past game, what I really liked about him was he did everything that we were working on through that brief offseason that we had together with his left shoulder, tracking his targets, getting out to his throws, especially to his right. It didn't all of a sudden revert back to old habits when now it's live fire, now it's live bullets. He just was the same guy. He's got that same calm heartbeat throughout. That's what I love about this guy. Like when he takes the field on game day, no different than when he takes the field at practice.
Welcome back to GameQuest of Volquest.com Game Day Podcast. I am Eric Cain alongside Grant Ramey, and that was Joey Halsey discussing his QB1, Joey Aguilar. Again, expect him to light up the stat sheet a little bit here today, but if all goes well, man, you're going to see an awful lot of Joey Aguilar. You're going to see a whole lot of Jake Merklinger, George McIntyre, which is always fun. But let's go back to last week again, talk about the Syracuse win. One of 7 or 8 quarterbacks. It was like the Manning passing star of the week or whatever. Looked really good. I thought the staff did a great job of keeping things comfortable for him, letting him go out there and rip. I thought that he didn't put the ball in harm's way. Accuracy a little bit, had some issues at times that Joey Halsey would go on to say, talking about his footwork and speeding things up, perimeter passing, all that. Got to work on that. But liked how his left shoulder took him where he wanted to go, things they've been working on. Overall, I don't think you could ask for much of a better start, a debut, if you will, with your new team than Joey Aguilar did on Saturday. I thought he was effective through the air and on the ground.
Yeah, just very impressive top to bottom. I think Heupel talked last week about kind of he won the job because of his command and his communication and kind of the way he ran the offense. I think you saw that kind of in game one where it just felt like he was in control. He did miss some throws early, throwing high a little bit. I've been just kind of fired up in the moment and all that kind of stuff, but it didn't really derail him or anything. He kind of settled in. He did run it when he needed to run it. I think he was patient when he needed to be patient and let stuff develop. I think he's good getting out of the pocket and kind of sensing that pressure and still keeping his eyes downfield and making plays. Obviously, it's a huge plus when you hit a huge deep ball right in stride and it's a 73-yard touchdown and it's a big response at that moment in the game and all this stuff. But just as a debut, it just looks like kind of the guy you want running your offense. Calm, cool, in control, not rushed, seeing stuff, being patient, and just running the offense. There were times where it was tempo. There was times where they slowed it down. But it was, it was 247 passing and 246 rushing. Like, how can you beat that in game one?
Yep, I thought he did a phenomenal job. I'm excited to see how he performs against, what we expect to be a really, really good defense in Georgia. Coming up next Saturday, the challenge. They're going to throw some different looks at him. They're going to hit him a couple of times. How do you respond to that adversity? I'm excited to see that. But no, I was very, very pleased. And what I also liked was, man, I saw a little bit of pistol, saw some pre-step motion, saw some wide splits, saw them bring him in a little bit at times, saw the running backs incorporated from the backfield in the passing game. I like going to the tight ends in the red zone, screens, quarterback design runs. Hey, there was some design, like little wrinkles there.
As soon as the season ended, it was like, all right, what's the next growth in the offense? What do we need to do to keep improving? And we felt like by showing some stuff like we did yesterday and really growing the package, we got a bunch of different ways to attack the defense. Like you saw us go wide and fast and hit a big one up top to Braylon, and you saw us get tight and move people around and hit big shots on that as well. So just the offense is always growing. It's our job to put our guys in the best situation possible, and whether that's wide, tight, fast, slow, moving, not moving, we're going to do that and let our guys have the best chance to go play at a high level. We really liked the group we took the field with, but as to your point, it was 8 new ones. It's like, all right, what do we really have? So leaving the field on Saturday, we know we got a tough, smart, competitive team. And you fill your locker room with a bunch of guys that are tough, smart, and competitive, you're going to have a chance every Saturday. So they grasped the stuff we were doing at a really high level. We don't anticipate that changing. So the guys that we roll out there with every Saturday, we feel like give us a competitive chance to go get a win.
Tennessee offensive coordinator Joey Halsey on the new wrinkles in the offense. And Grant, I'll say this, man. I know that was the opener, so you had a lot more time to prepare. I know that things are getting a little bit restricted week to week. I understand that you have, another analyst in there, another set of eyes in Seth Luttrell. It's always a collaborative effort. It's never one person. It wasn't one person when Alex Golesh was here. But give that man some flowers. I thought Joey Halsey had a fantastic game plan and some pretty good play calling there. I know fans were frustrated with the run on 3rd and 7 backed up inside your own 10. But I thought overall, man, that was a really, really good game from Joey Aguilar, from Josh Heupel, and from the offensive coordinator, Joey Halsey.
I mean, but also, how many times on that 3rd and 7 have you seen somebody hit a draw for 10 yards, and when you hand it off, you're screaming no, and then you're like, oh, okay, well, I guess that worked.
Tennessee had 3rd and 10 around midfield, ran a running back screen, and Bishop got 18. So
right, so I think you did see some changes. One play that sticks out to me is that screen, or I guess it's kind of a screen, kind of a middle screen to Deshaun Bishop, where he runs out like he's headed for a wheel or something up the sideline. Gets that linebacker's hips turned, and then just turns back to the middle of the field, and he's got blockers set up, and he's got a ton of green space there. And yeah, they do have a lot of time to prepare a game plan for a week one and all that stuff, and you're looking at the same opponent for weeks on end. But at the same time, Saturday morning, you realize your right tackle, David Sanders, is not going to be able to play, so that forces Jesse Perry to go from guard to right tackle. That forces Wendell Moe to flip from left guard to right guard. that causes changes across your offensive line, and you still run for 246, and you still don't give up a sack. Lance Hurd looks like an absolute animal at left tackle. Wendell Moe's been very, very impressive just in terms of his athleticism, for the size that he has, what this offensive line can do and what it's capable of, given that it's a brand new starting offensive line. I mean, it's 4 new starters from last season, so you didn't really know what you're going to get there. So you combine what you saw from Joey, you combine what you saw from the running backs doing what they normally do. I thought Star Thomas was impressive. I thought the running backs as a whole were impressive, just kind of doing what Tennessee usually does in Heupel's run game. Combine that with the offensive line and how not only that they looked competent, but they looked really good for a brand new looking offensive line. Just really impressive week 1.
Yeah, really impressive. It should be very impressive today. It's kind of funny. Tennessee moved up 2 spots in the AP from 24 to 22. Tennessee moved up 1 spot in the coaches, 18 to 17. Is that right?
18 to 17, right?
And so it's almost like, okay, well, they're not going to move up much for beating an ETSU. I tried to say Austin P and UT Chattanooga before I got to ETSU there. They're gonna move up much there. So it's almost like the polls are setting Tennessee up to be, if you lose to Georgia, like you're going to be unranked. Which again, what's that game look like? If it is a loss, what's that loss look like? Competitive and all that. But nonetheless, it was a good opening week, and Tennessee didn't move up much in the polls, and that's okay. It's too early in the season to begin with, but I'm excited to see kind of what this offensive line looks like with David Sanders, what Jesse Perry looks like at guard, and again, hat tip to the offensive line and Glenn Ellerby. Like, that showed me that you have 7 guys that you like. You have a 7. I don't want to call it a rotation, but you have 7 offensive linemen that you love. And Sham Umarov is one of those 7. And that was his first start. Like, he looked really, really good. Jesse Perry, his versatility. Obviously, David Sanders is in that one, and he'll be back at right tackle. William Satterwhite, who got a series, that was on that aforementioned backed up in your side your own 10, third down run play. He only got 3 plays at center in that game, but feels like he's on the outside of that rotation right now. But, man, I like this offensive line. And, again, you're going to have trials and tribulations a lot more next week than this week and all that, but a really, really good start. Defensively, is it as simple as they were just beat up there towards the end? They were on the field too much? I personally thought they were light in the interior because of all those injuries, and they kind of got pushed around on the ground game in the second half, which wasn't good. I'm still walking away super impressed with the secondary. I thought the secondary was phenomenal. But even with giving up 4 touchdowns, which is kind of gross, and I don't think that should be the norm, Tennessee still scored on defense. Tennessee still had an interception, 4 turnovers. Tennessee still had 5 sacks. Tennessee still made things incredibly difficult for Steve Angeli. Like, there were so many positives in that game defensively to where, I wrote on Sunday, like, call me crazy. I think the defense is going to be just okay, right? They don't need to give up 4 touchdowns. I think they're going to be okay.
Yeah, I didn't walk away from that extremely worried about the defense. I think you could chalk it up to injuries taking their toll. I think you could chalk it up to getting out to a 17-0 lead in the first quarter, 24-7 at halftime, if I'm not mistaken on that score, and kind of letting your foot off the gas. I think that's the natural tendency a little bit. It just felt like Tennessee was doing whatever they wanted to do against Syracuse during that first half. And it could be easy to kind of take your foot off the gas a little bit there in the second half and start to leak a little bit. And obviously, Syracuse's offense put up huge numbers last year. I don't know what they're going to be this year, but I think that you still got the same guys calling the plays and running the show in terms of the coaching staff. So they still could end up being somewhat decent on offense, even though they're not expected to be a 10-win football team again. So I think it's a combination of kind of all those factors where maybe Syracuse isn't terrible. Maybe you did kind of get beat up. Maybe you did kind of let your foot off the gas and take it easy a little bit when you shouldn't have, and it's hard to kind of turn it back on after you've kind of backed off of it a little bit. But I need to see more struggle, more proof that they're not going to be a very good defense to start thinking that way, thinking in that direction, that they're going to struggle and they're going to take big steps back from what we saw last season.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly didn't think Tennessee's defense would be perfect, but I guess I was wrong last week to not put more stock into the system and what they accomplished, even though it's completely different personnel.
Right.
Like you said, same play caller, same scheme, a lot of success. And Steve Angeli was very impressed. I'll tell you who I was impressed with, man. Yasin Willis is a good back.
Yep.
Really impressed with him. He's a good Big Ten running back, or Big Ten / ACC style of a running back. Kind of a bigger back, downhill runner. did a really, really good job in that regard. All right,
Steve Angeli stood in the pocket sometimes and stood in the face of pressure. And then sometimes Tennessee, I think for the first snap of the game, they sent Turntine on a blitz, and Syracuse just went straight where Andre was and kind of burnt Tennessee. And that happens sometimes on defense when you're aggressive and sending blitzes. So, I was impressed kind of with his poise and kind of finding ways to take whatever Tennessee was giving them and making it work for them and trying to stick around for a little bit.
Before we give our official Tennessee ETSU game day prediction, because I haven't even thought about that, Grant, yet. Let's look around the SEC today. Not a whole lot going on. There is one SEC game, Ole Miss on the road to Kentucky. Can the Wildcats make it 2 years in a row? There's a big matchup with Oklahoma and Michigan nationally. I think I'm excited to see how that one plays out, especially considering Oklahoma is going to be coming here, in a couple of months. Alabama's got a cupcake. Boy, do they need it. Interesting under-the-radar game, I think, Vanderbilt and Virginia Tech. I think Vanderbilt can win that one potentially. It's going to be on the road. That's kind of a pick-em right now. Auburn's got Ball State. I was reminded earlier this week that Ball is a state. Ball is life, but it is not a state. You've got Mississippi State, Arizona State. You've got LSU and Louisiana Tech, the battle of Louisiana's. You've got South Carolina State and South Carolina. That should be just a thrilling matchup. Same as Arkansas and Arkansas State, the Fighting Butch Joneses. Interesting one. I'll save it for last. Missouri, Kansas, old Big 12 matchup there. Georgia, Austin Peay. That'll go however Georgia wants it to. Utah State, Texas A&M. Texas, San Jose State. South Florida in the swamp.
It's going to say
Florida's going to win this game, but can Golish make it interesting? It was a pretty good opening act against Boise the other night.
I was going to say you're leaving off the one the General's Quarters is going to be most impressed with, or most
saving the best for last,
most obsessed with throughout the day, seeing what Golish can do in the swamp. Man, were they impressive? I don't know. Maybe Boise was just everybody expected Boise to be kind of what they always are in terms of that Group of 5 playoff contender and all that stuff. Maybe they were a little overrated. I don't know. Or maybe South Florida's just really underrated. There's some interesting stuff. I mean, Missouri, Kansas hadn't been played since 2011. That's a long time ago, and that is a very, very bitter rivalry. So that's interesting. Let's see, what was the other one? Oklahoma and Michigan is very interesting because it's two, huge brand names in college football, but also a very interesting quarterback comparison in Bryce Underwood and John Mateer. So that's very interesting to see kind of what those two teams look like, what Bryce Underwood looks like on the road, what Oklahoma looks like at home in one of those big matchups. Vanderbilt beat Virginia Tech in Nashville, right, last season, if I'm not mistaken. So that is another interesting one. And I thought they were, before getting kind of put away late by South Carolina, I thought they kind of hung around a little bit more than I thought they would in that game. So that's a little bit interesting. But yeah, it's not the week 1 slate, but there are some interesting matchups.
34-27 overtime winner for Vanderbilt last year, and the opener against Virginia Tech. I forgot about that. That's a good call.
That is interesting. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's going to be tough to win in Blacksburg. I guess Virginia Tech's kind of playing the old SEC East here to start the season. South Carolina, Vanderbilt. I don't know where they go next or who they got next, but that's kind of interesting. But yeah, Michigan, Oklahoma is going to get the attention it deserves. But man, USF at Florida is kind of tasty.
Quick little hitters on week 1. Hard to take anything away outside of just feeling horrible for Sam Horn. Missouri 61-6 winner over Central Arkansas. You and I talked in the car at the hotel Friday night. Auburn 38-24 over Baylor. Good for Jackson Arnold.
Mm-hmm.
Again, they have no confidence in him throwing the football. Right. They still don't, right?
If he can run for 150 a game, he's going to be tough. But it's going to be hard to do that. So you're going to have to develop a little bit more.
Yeah, certainly a good win for Auburn. And Auburn's got so much talent, right? I mean, Auburn, it's never been a question of talent. Auburn's always, pretty good in that regard. But if Arnold can figure out the forward pass on a consistent basis, they're going to be they're not going to contend for a playoff. Well, they might. I mean, hell, I can see them winning 8-9 games, so that's probably not a true contender for the playoff. But it was a really good win for Auburn in week 1. I'm not going to overreact too much about Arch Manning, but boy, he looked horrible. Also, that was a very, 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 very big stage. Right. Ohio State minus its coordinators. Not a whole lot of offensive fireworks, but it was a defensive game on both sides, 14-7, an old callback football score. But Texas's defense is still so good. A lot of questions now leaving that game about the offense.
Yeah, I mean, just Arch growing up in the family he grew up in and having the uncles that he has and the grandfather that he has, I just expected him to look more prepared, kind of ready for that moment. And it just didn't look that way. I didn't get to watch a ton of it. I was kind of had it on an iPad during the Tennessee game, kind of just tracking it a little bit. And there were just some plays where the mechanics were weird, where he's kind of throwing sidearm off his back foot and he's just not all that accurate. That was just weird to see. I don't think Sark's ever been really that great in the red zone, and I think they kind of struggled with that still. They got stopped on that goal line stand where they tried to kind of do a little tush push, except there was no push. It was going backwards. So maybe if that plays out better, more designed for Texas, that changes the game in a big way because you're talking about maybe getting it to overtime. But I just kind of felt like he was going to should have been more prepared in that, even though it is Ohio State on the road, week 1, all that stuff, noon kickoff, all that stuff. I just felt like his lack of being prepared was surprising to me.
Kentucky found a way. Zach Calzada, again, 7th-year guy, found a way 24-16 over Toledo. Arkansas, easy win. Vanderbilt, easy win. Ole Miss, easy win. A&M, probably thought it was going to be easier, but 42-24 over UTSA. Oklahoma, easy win. Florida, easy win. Quickly out the door here. Georgia, easy win. Comment on Alabama's performance against Florida State. A lot of, and as you pointed out on a Monday morning or maybe a Sunday night, I'm gonna hit on this on Locked On Balls every Monday because I think this is so cool. The ESPN matchup predictor backed by FBI. Mm-hmm. Tennessee's now, according to that metric, Tennessee is now a favorite on the road in Tuscaloosa by the slimmest of margins because of what Alabama looked like in week 1, 31-17 loss in Tallahassee.
Slimmest of margin, but it flipped like 10% in the other direction. And I don't know how accurate that thing is. It's just interesting to me to kind of follow it and track it. It also switched from Florida being like a 52% chance winner against Tennessee to Tennessee being like a 51.3%.
Yeah, what did Florida do in week 1?
Right. They played Long Island or whoever it was, of all people. But yeah, Florida, man, Alabama, like, I'm not going to sit here and say Kalen DeBoer is not going to work out at Alabama and all this stuff, but it feels like there are lots of signs of this might not be a fit. Like just the way they're getting physically dominated on the line of scrimmage against a Florida State team that had to be remade because it went 2-10 last year. I don't know, the guys not running to the football, just like not hustling. Like it just feels like, I think Rob might have said this on the board at some point or tweeted it or something. Like it feels like Saban's been gone 20 years and he's been gone, 14 games. Like It feels like this thing has regressed quickly. And I don't know if that means he has no chance there. It's going to prove not to be a fit. He's won a lot of games at a lot of different places his entire career as a head coach. So it would make sense if he figured it out and found ways to win because that's what we're used to seeing from him. But right now, man, they are struggling.
Brian Kelly said he pretty much whooped their tail, that being Clemson in the second half. Dabo said that neither team played well. LSU probably gets a 65 grade, 58 for Clemson, getting the final exam on the first day of class. I mean, I don't hate that comparison or that metaphor, if you will. But Brian Kelly came in there and said, I guess he must be a really good grader or a really bad grader. Maybe he didn't see the second half because we wolfed them so bad. Outscored them 14-0 in the second half. Another good defensive game, no doubt. Two really good programs. Both programs going to be in the college football playoff conversation. Heck, both might make the college football playoffs. But LSU gets that win 17-10. Nussmeier came through there in the end. But again, the story was the defense, in my opinion, the entire game.
Well, a veteran quarterback, a lot of talent all over the field. And if that defense is back to elite, that's a big deal. It looks like LSU is a pretty good football team. I don't know what Clemson is. I still don't know what to make of them. They got talent all over the place. And they're going to have a lot of guys picked in the first round of the NFL draft. In the spring, but still, I need to see Dabo's team get back to being what Dabo's teams used to be. It's just been too long. It's I don't know. I just need to see that because we just hadn't seen. I don't know what Cade Klubnik is like. It feels like he's been there for 5 years, kind of struggling. Like, is he going to ever live up to the hype? All this stuff. It feels like
I gave up on him last year, Grant. He had a really great year.
Right. And I think it might just be more LSU's just a good football team. Like, that's a tough place to play. They went in there, they got down, 10-3, and they turned it into a 17-10 game in the second half, and they let their defense kind of control it. And if you got that veteran quarterback, if you got talent, if you got a really good defense, you're going to be a good football team.
All right, the moment everybody's been sticking around waiting for here in this GameQuest is, I think your parents, Your wife's probably not listening. There's
No,
not many people.
not a
listening
chance. Not a
this
chance.
late in the show. But give me your score prediction, man. Tennessee and ETSU.
To be fair, my wife wasn't listening at the start of the show or the middle of the show or any other point in the show.
The only family member that supports me is my dad. My dad watches all my shows on Lockdown Vols. He watches a lot of this stuff. My wife says she downloads them to support me. I'm like, well, do you like food do you like this house we live in? Like, you should probably support me. But my mom has no clue about anything. Like, I'm only loved by my dad, apparently.
Listen, I've listened to every GameQuest podcast since the start of the 23 season. Every single one.
Every one, man. I mean,
while we record it, but anyway. My prediction, I kind of painted myself into a corner because they were asking for score predictions on the thread and on the board earlier this week, and I answered 69-6. Kind of because it's a hilarious score, but also because Tennessee needs to have that kind of game where you just leave this game feeling really good. A lot of people did a lot of good stuff. You scored a ton of points. You didn't give up any points, or you didn't give up very many points. So that's it for me. 69-6. I don't know how they get there. I don't know who does it or how it gets done, but it would be a hilarious final score.
The worst football team I've ever seen in person in my life. The worst football team was Kent State last year.
Oh yeah,
and Tennessee put up 73, right?
51 in the first half. 51 in the first half.
So if Tennessee, now I recognize Tennessee took the let off the gas a little bit, but if Tennessee only put up 73 against that horrific display of a football team, I'm not gonna get up in the high 60s here. And again, I say all this. Tennessee could have scored 150 that day if they wanted to, right? Give me 55-10. I think that's right. I think Tennessee jumps out to like a 42-0 lead at halftime. I mean, something like that. They're going to play a lot of players. There's going to be an MA. There's going to be a blown assignment. That happens. Again, 2 Division I quarterbacks on the other side. They ran the football well. They might bust one. I mean, it just happens. So give me 55-10, a convincing win for the University of Tennessee. We'll see if that's the score I stick with on the predictions whenever that comes out. But it's probably already out by now. We record this earlier in the week. But nonetheless, I think it's going to be an easy win. You need to get out of here injury-free, Grants, and all the focus on Georgia starting at about, so we'll call it 7:30 Saturday night.
That started as soon as the Syracuse game went final, let's be honest. Also, shout out Kent State. They beat Merrimack in week 1. They got off the schneid. I don't know what their losing streak was, but it was pretty impressive. Had to rally to beat Merrimack, but they still rallied to beat Merrimack.
Don't call it a program comeback, all right?
Yeah, don't ask me where Merrimack is either, or what their nickname is, or anything. What level of football they play? I
thought you stuttered when you said that. No, that's a real place.
Merrimack. They're a basketball program too. They've made some NCAA tournaments.
Extra credit. Somebody tweet me what the mascot is for Merrimack, and you'll win
our respect.
Job. Yeah, you'll win our respect. All right, Grant Ramey, I'm Eric Cain. GameQuest every single weekday right here on Volquest.com. Just kidding, it's not weekdays. Every single week, game day right here on Volquest.com. Serving 2 masters, that's tough. Grant Ramey, presented by our great friends over at Spivey, Cain, Spivey LLP. I'm not going to mess up those people because they're so good to us. If you got a problem, let them find a solution for you. That is TN Trial Lawyers. Get a free consultation today, right? You never know when you might have a need. Like if you get injured in a car accident, need help with a divorce, custody of your children, been accused of a crime, right? Spivey, Cain, Spivey LLP can help you. A free consultation at 423-245-4185 or online at SpiveyKingandSpiveyLLP.com. If you got a problem, they'll find a solution for you. That's TN Trial Lawyers. Going to be a fun day. Constant conversations all over the GQ, during, after, post-game, all that and more. Georgia's coming up next week. But first, let's get to see Tennessee in action one more time before a big tune-up in the SEC home opener coming up next week. It's Tennessee and the Bucks of East Tennessee State University right here. We'll have coverage for you all day long right here at Volquest.com.